Recording? Recording. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of 20 for 20. We're happy to have you back here. So happy to have Russ back in the studio, man. How you doing?
Finally, dude. It's been a hot minute since I've been back here. You know
that it has.
I've been slacking a little bit, but I'm glad to be back. Glad to be back to the grind. You know, want to be consistent. And this is Jacob and I's. Jacob did a podcast last week with Christian Ormore.
That was awesome. Christian did a great job. Happy to have him on here.
But this is our inaugural podcast for this year. So
absolutely,
I'm excited, dude. Today's podcast, we're going to be talking a little bit. Jacob was able to talk about his experience with Passion this year, so I'm going to just dabble in my experience with it this year, just how awesome it was. We're also just going to remind you guys of why we're doing the podcast, and then take you through a little bit of what we were doing over our break, and then we're going to talk about the goals that we have for this year. So that's what we got in store for y'all.
So let's start at the beginning of our break. So our last podcast before Christian and I's was probably, December sometime. And that was right before we started our hunting trip that week. So we took that weekend off. And then we had something going on the next weekend. And then we just got really, really busy that whole break month or so off, so we didn't put any podcasts out there, and that was kind of good. I think that we kind of took a step back, kind of gathered new ideas, gathered new kind of a new mission, and then we went forward with it. So yeah, how was your break, dude?
Yeah, no, break was awesome. I think even before that it was Thanksgiving, before the hunting trip. So
oh, really?
Yeah.
It's been a while.
Yeah, it really has. But the break was awesome. I mean, for me, towards the end of last semester, it was more like we were just trying to fit in the podcast to our lives. This year, this year, we're trying to be just more intentional about setting that time aside each and every week to be able to provide quality content.
Yeah, absolutely.
And honestly, the break was awesome, just being able to spend it with family, being able to spend it with my girlfriend a lot of the time. Her birthday was over the break. It was actually the night that we left Passion. That was the day.
So that was over New Year's. For those of you who didn't watch Christian and I's podcast, Passion is a conference, huge conference in Atlanta, Georgia. 60,000 plus people there, really awesome. Russ went down. Christian and I also went down, obviously. So Russ, what was your takeaway? There was dozens of speakers. There was lots of big musicians there, just being there to lead us in worship. So what was your kind of takeaway? What made you want to go back from the year before, and what did you enjoy about this year?
So last year, I remember right after.
It was our second year.
Yeah, this year was our second year. Last year, right after the conference, I remember we got back on the bus and they had this special pricing for this year's tickets, and last year was awesome. All the speakers were awesome. The worship was awesome. And this year was really hyped up. We were going to a bigger stadium. Everything was going to be in one place. And so I bought tickets right away because number one, I bought extra tickets because I knew that I wanted my girlfriend now. She wasn't my girlfriend at the time, but I wanted her to be able to go and experience that. I think that a conference like that, a gathering of that many Christians worshiping the Lord together, I think if you have an opportunity to do that, you should at least do that once in your life, because it really is just it is a life-changing experience. And I'm not saying that you should go to that to just kickstart your faith every single year, but just it gives you a small glimpse of heaven. And I think that's a thing that I took away again this year. I remember New Year's Eve. So last year, we'd be done at 9 or 10, and we'd get back to the hotel and we'd have time to chill. But this year, the first day, it was New Year's Eve. And so we were literally there until 1:30 in the morning. And we were just
singing the whole time.
Yeah, we were singing the whole time.
To the middle of the night.
And that was probably the the experience that I'm going to remember the most.
Yeah, that first night.
Just like, I think it was Hillsong that was just leading the worship.
Yeah, Hillsong
And
United. It was pretty cool.
They were just pumping out bangers all night, and it was just awesome. I remember,
You thinking of a song?
yeah, I'm trying to think of a song.
The one they did over the countdown was "Good Grace."
Oh,
and then
I remember what it was. It's not like even a full song, but it was. It went like, "Our God is an awesome God. He reigns from heaven above with wisdom, power, and love. Our God is an awesome God."
So
and we
like
just repeated that. We just repeated that like 10 times over.
Oh.
And I don't know why. Like, it's such a simple, like, little song.
But when that many
whatever.
people are saying it, it just opens up your eyes to something else, something bigger that you maybe hadn't been experienced to. And even we can compare last year to this year. I mean, like, it was quadruple the size, dude.
Oh, I know.
It still was kind of a new awakening. So.
Yeah, and you, Christian, and Tyrell actually got to be down on the floor, and I didn't do that because we had gotten home like the night, like we were there till 1:30, and we didn't get to the hotel until 2 something before we fell asleep. And these guys went back to the stadium on 3 hours of sleep.
Yeah, no, it was bad. We didn't get to bed till like 2:30 at the earliest. And then we were up at 5:45. The line was we only waited in line for like an hour, which that sounds like a long time, but it really wasn't.
Yeah.
And then we got in there, got like 3rd row to the stage, dude.
Yeah.
And it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Super uncomfortable. The chairs were not as nice as the stadium chairs.
For real?
Yeah, they were not. But it was, I would go back and do it again. And I wanted to do it that last day, but that would have been so not worth.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you guys picked the perfect day to do it too, because they opened the dome like when you guys were down there.
Yeah. So the stadium we were in has a dome that opens at the top, right? It's like I don't know, it's weird. It's like a
spiral
opening.
Yeah.
And they opened that during a song, and the wind started coming down, and like it felt like it was spiraling around the stadium. It was quite something. So that was really cool. Well, that's cool. Your takeaway from Passion obviously was a good time. We don't quite know if we're gonna go again next year because it's just a lot. But obviously we enjoyed it. We're big fans of the Passion Conference, and we love everything they do, especially for young adults just pretty much throughout the world, dude. I mean, there's so many nations there, so that's really awesome. So we want to talk about what's next for well, first of all, what 2020 is kind of about. Like, why are we doing this in the first place? Just a little bit of reminder for our audience as to what we're doing here.
Yeah, like why we started this podcast in the first place. And that reason really, like, so this was another idea that came from, I think it kind of came from Passion last year.
Yeah, it absolutely did. I would say it did.
And because we just wanted to reach people in as many ways as possible. So 1eighty was one thing of that, and this is just another like thing where Jacob and I just get to talk about Christ and the Bible and church and just things that, like, I feel like on a normal day, when we're just going through the motions, we don't talk about it as much. But this is something during the week that we can come back to, and just like we pick a certain topic and we're able to really just see God's grace through all of the things that we talk about. And we love just to share it with the world, with whoever watches these things. And we're really grateful for like the support that we have had. Our first couple videos had like a couple hundred views, and then after that it sort of like died down a bit. But hopefully we continue to grow as we get to know people, because we need to plug this hard. I don't think I did plug it on the bus ride back, but I was going to when I was on the mic.
Dang, that would have been a good idea. I went back from Passion. But really, so like you said, it's an awesome opportunity for us to take a step back and kind of go deeper into some things we might not have time to on a normal week. But it's also, I think, an awesome tool for other people. I think the Lord has used it already, and hopefully will continue to do so as a tool to help others, any age, kind of grow in their faith, maybe trying to understand something a little bit more. And we're not experts on literally anything, but I do feel like we've been blessed with some type of biblical training in our lives that can allow us to just discuss it, right, and maybe help someone out in some way that we couldn't even imagine. But
and like all this is from the perspective of two college kids that like we really don't know what we're gonna end up doing, but
we love Jesus and we love talking about Jesus, and that's what's important. So,
right. Yeah. And I just wanted to read like another thing, and this is just the mission for everyone that's a Christian.
Sure.
It's from Matthew 28:19. It says, "Therefore, go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Teach these new disciples to obey the commands I have given you, and be sure of this: I'm with you always, even to the end of the age." So, our mission as Christians is to make disciples, to bring people to Christ, to show them His goodness, His love. Because we want, at the end of the day, we want as many people as we see during the day. We want all of them to just be worshiping the Lord with us someday in heaven. And
that's something I kind of reflect on. Like, what is my ministry? Like, how am I doing that? And I think that's probably a question that any Christian should ask themselves. Like, okay, I'm commanded by, I mean, command is one word, but Jesus has told me to go make disciples, right? Mm-hmm. We enjoy doing that. That brings us as Christians a indescribable amount of joy.
Right.
But we got to step back and like, what am I actually doing to accomplish that? What am I doing to obey that command? What am I doing to change other people's hearts, like with the heart Jesus has changed in me? And I think about that a lot, right? It can come back to 1eighty. It can come back to this podcast. It can come back to a number of things, just personal meetings. But I'm trying to, like, if I would think back to earlier in my life and I asked myself, like, what is my ministry? I would have none, right? And that would be reason to just, like, kind of question where I'm at in my life right now. Like, what am I doing right now? How is my life pointing to Christ? Probably not, So I do feel like, we should ask ourselves that. It's just a little bit of a self-reflection. Like, is my life pointing others to Christ? And that's a really hard question.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, that looks different for every single person.
Right, absolutely.
Like, you and I, like, we have 1eighty and we have, like, this podcast, but not everybody has a ministry that they're teaching in or pouring into. Like, that's like a whole like set thing. Sometimes it's just a personal ministry, like
absolutely.
with you and your friend group. But what I want to like encourage, like, if you are in a church and the only friends that you have are in the church, you should try and make some friends that are outside of the church, whether it's in the workplace or wherever. So
and that in itself would be a ministry.
Exactly.
Right? I mean, if you're showing the light of Christ to these people by the way you live, by being different from them, I mean, you have a little ministry going there, and that's so beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, your whole life is a ministry, right? Like, the way that you live, people are going to know what you are about by the way that you live. And sometimes that's convicting for me because like I feel like sometimes it's so easy to just like look like the world, and like just look like a normal person and just be okay with it. But when like I think about it, like I know that I'm different, and so I should show that. I should want to show that, and that should be something that I want to do all of the time.
And in my experience, people respect it.
Oh yeah.
Like there was, I mean, for me, I can talk from my own experience. There was a serious degree of fear involved in sharing my faith with people, especially old friends that were close to me. But when the Lord actually gave me the courage to go and do that, and I mean, so on and so on, people I've never been like shied away, and I can't say this for everyone, but my friends at least have looked at me and not looked down at me for my new life, for my new love for Christ. They've actually looked up to it for the most part, and I've got to see a lot of them come around to this way of thinking and this new type of life, this new type of freedom. So I guess the fear aspect is something that if you're struggling with it, it's just like another hurdle you got to get over, right? It's just not another step you got to take, and you can pray for the Lord to equip you with that, because I'm not denying the fact that it is incredibly intimidating to share your faith. So
Yeah, and I feel like more like you, it was definitely God's timing when you were saved, and it was definitely God's timing with your friends as well, because I feel like the friends that you had reached a point of just maturity, like with your friendship. Like, it don't matter like if he's not doing all the same things that like we used to be doing together. Like, Jacob's still the same person, and now like he's so much different, and we want to know why. Because like,
I think there was a level of curiosity of that as well. Just like what happened? How did he 180 like that?
Yeah, because
it
was
can say that for anyone.
Yeah, it was a drastic change.
Quite, yeah.
And so like, I know you're super thankful for that, because like there is a fear, and I know it's like from the devil that like your friends will turn away. And I think honestly in high school that is something that happens. I feel like there's so much like judgment and stuff that goes on like during even like middle school and high school. But like once you get to like a certain maturity, like once people do, like they realize it, like it doesn't matter. And
right.
It like that's the thing about like high school, is just so much like drama and stuff. So
my next message this upcoming Sunday at 180 is actually about judgment. It's actually about, so the editors of my Bible call it the sin of partiality. And I know that sounds a little dramatic, but other Bibles call it, warning against prejudice, stuff like that. What I'm going to be talking about is, what does it mean to judge someone, right? Obviously, as Christians, we're Jesus says in the Sermon on the Mount, the measure in which we judge others will be used on ourselves, right? We're not to judge people, but what does it mean to judge someone, right? And I think that a lot of Christians have a wrong idea about that, and a lot of Christians do judge people, right? And that's hard, but I do believe that, we, especially in younger lives, it's a lot harder to be a professing Christian. It's a lot harder to go evangelize your faith. I couldn't imagine doing that in high school, dude.
Yeah.
And there was some people who did, right?
Yeah.
And I have the utmost respect for those people. More than they know. And I don't even remember some of their names, but those kids with just that extra level of courage at that age that I didn't have. Absolutely.
Yeah, and that, like, just again to plug 180. So this week is the first week of teaching. We had a party last week. It was
our 2020 kickoff.
It was great.
It was fun, yeah.
And so this week we're getting back into the weekly teaching and worship. That was a staple of 180 last semester. So that is this Sunday, right, from 8 to 9?
8 to 9 p.m. The address is 14868 West Ridge Lane. It's right off Highway 20. So if any of you 18-ish to 25-ish, I say year-olds, you're welcome. Come join us. We'd love to have you there. Like Russ said, we're going to be getting back into teaching. We're going to keep going through the book of James, chapter 2. We're going to pick off right where we left off last semester, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really excited to get back into that. This break for me has been a break kind of from teaching too, from youth group and from 180.
Yeah,
and
I bet that's been...
Yeah, I'm really pumped to get back into it. Russ, you're also picking up a little bit more of the teaching. Last year, you had one message, loved it. What are your feelings about taking on like 4 or 5 this semester?
I'm super pumped, dude. For me,
because it's a lot. A lot of people don't realize how much it is, right? How much work, whatever. So, what are your feelings?
Yeah, and I'm just super pumped because it is a challenge. Like, it challenges me to be better, Yeah.
Certainly. And
it calls you to a higher standard, whether you like it or not. If you're going to be in some sort of teaching or leadership role, you're called to a higher standard. That's just a fact.
It's a burden too.
Yeah. But it's not something that I think we should ever shy away from. I think that we should approach those things with faith. And the thing is, like, sometimes when you approach something like that, that's going to challenge you in your faith. Sometimes you're not gifted in a certain area, and that's what I was trying to figure out last semester, just doing it one time, and I'm still trying to figure it out. But I do think that the Lord's given me at least some capacity to be able to teach and to share like what I've learned. So yeah, dude, I'm super pumped, and I can't wait for this year.
Yeah, me neither. I'm pumped to have you help me out with that as well. So, all right, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching all the way through, and we will see you again next week with some more 20 for 20 in 2020. Hey, all right, see ya.